All right, we are shifting focus now. A viral lab test has ignited panic over premium eggs from Eggoz, with claims that they are laced with a banned cancer-linked chemical. Now, the controversy erupted after a YouTube video from Trustified revealed traces of AOZ, a metabolite from prohibited antibiotics nitrofurans, in samples of Eggoz so-called antibiotic-free eggs. Now, the brand, which is popular for its farm fresh appeal, insists that the levels are negligible and safe for consumption, urging independent retesting. Founder of the brand, Siddhant Gupta, has slammed any shortcuts, vowing transparency. These drugs, outlawed globally since the 1990s for their carcinogenic potential, leave residues that raising alarms over long-term bladder and colorectal cancer risk from chronic exposure. Health experts, however, stress that the detective levels far below EU safety thresholds are unlikely to harm from occasional meals, advising moderation over outright panic. So now you can remember that this is the entire controversy. It's erupted over a YouTube video and a viral lab test that has created panic among people. But however, they have stated that yes, there are genotoxic chemicals present over there in the eggs. But remember, let's look at what that viral lab report in fact had to say and why this panic has been generated. So, when we look at what the entire controversy is about, what has Trustified actually found out? Now, Trustified's Eggoz egg testing breakdown is here in front of you. This is level 1, nutritional accuracy, protein, carbs, fats, etc. The method is biochemical assays on 100 grams eggs white for macronutrients. The second level is heavy metals, that is what you test for. The method is atomic absorption spectroscopy for ASPB, HGCD, and the results are all below limits and trace as present, but we are safe. So, there are below levels presence of heavy metals, but they are safe to consume. Level 3 is pesticides and elemental contaminants. Now, what is the method to test this? The GCMS for pesticides and atomic methods for CU, etc. The results are that pesticides are undetectable and CU is within limits. So, pesticides are undetectable in this report. Now, what is level 4? This is microbiological safety. The method is plating or culturing for TPC, coliforms or E. coli and Salmonella. So, all these bacteria, we are checking for that with this, and the results are that all under 100 grams CFUs per gram, there is no contamination. So, no contamination on that front as well. Level 5, antibiotic residues. The results are all below MRLs and supports the antibiotic free for standard drugs. So, this supports the claim that this is a little bit below the levels of what is permitted. Now, level 6 is banned drugs and metabolites. Methods for nitrofurans is AOZ, and for nitroimidazoles, and targets metabolites. So, the results are AOZ is more than 1 ppb. So, this is a good quantity, and nitroimidazoles absent. This signals illegal use. So, this is what we are talking about, level 6, where we are testing for banned drugs and metabolites, and this has been found over there. So, the overall conclusions mostly passed. Nutrition is near the claim, there is low contaminants. However, the AOZ violates the antibiotic free claim and risks cancer long term. So, you should check your labels, and you should this should be backed by independent tests. So, this is what the study actually found out, and this is what has been going viral over the place, all over the place. In fact, joining us on the broadcast is Dr. Manan Vora orthopedic surgeon and report publisher, who has been very vocal about this entire issue. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the broadcast. When we look at this entire issue, sir, you have spoken about how there is presence of chemicals, even though in low quantities, and these are genotoxic chemicals. So please help us understand the entire issue and why it is very important for people to actually understand what this issue is.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. So, of course, here the drugs in question, like you mentioned, are nitrofuran and nitroimidazole, and especially the AOZ metabolite of nitrofuran, which has caught everyone's attention. From the brand's perspective, they've actually followed the FSSAI guidelines, which allow up to 1 mcg per kg. So they're not really wrong when you question it in comparison to the FSSAI guidelines and the limitations that are there. The reason why this has obviously blown out of proportion is because when you actually compare it to the international standards, where they actually have set a zero tolerance for these substances, they've kept a limit of quantification below which this number should fall, which would be 0.0001. That is where there is a difference in how the Indian standards and the international standards are currently not met. Now, I think it's important to understand that everyone does use these drugs. They just use them at a very, very low level. They are actually given to these hens to keep them away from bacteria, keep them away from infection, and keep them more stable. And you don't actually expect those metabolites to show up when you do the lab tests. However, there will be some trace elements. There is also a possibility of environmental contamination that can take place, which could lead to some amount of value that is shown in the test. Now, this is where FSSAI says that our limit is 1 mcg per kg, and anything below that would be as good as considered zero, because there is a chance of these trace elements to be present. However, the question we're kind of putting out there is that why is our limit different from international standards when you do have technology out there to identify these trace elements? Why is even a 0.1 or a 0.3 or a 0.5 acceptable? So that is where the actual debate lies. And when this independent report came out showing it at 0.7 mcg per kg, which was still very much within the FSSAI limit, and hence the FSSAI is not technically wrong in allowing this brand to operate. The brand is not technically wrong in going about its operations. It has highlighted the fact that probably our limits and ranges of quantification are not up to the international standards.
So, sir, what you're basically talking about is that we need to make sure that the FSSAI standards are changed. We need to meet them internationally. There should not be allowed even a 0.4 or a 0.7, which is present in Eggoz. That's the main crux of the debate. That's what you are, in fact, putting across. But if we look at this brand, it's still operating. It's given its clarification as well. What would you tell the viewers to go, do going forward? Because as per the brand, you can, consume them in moderate quantity.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been a consumer of this brand since 2 years. I actually put this out on social media as well. My 16-month-old baby has been having these eggs. My pet dog has been having these eggs. So obviously, when I heard this, I was, pretty surprised. We do have to keep in mind that, of course, an independent body like Trustified has been doing some excellent work in terms of testing brands independently and, letting that voice out there to the consumer. What we need to obviously see is not completely panic and go at the other end. If you actually do the math on how many mcg per kg you would even consume, if you were to consume those eggs, you would need to consume a whole lot of eggs for there to be a potential risk of cancer, which, mind you, currently has been proven in animals, not any human studies as well. So there isn't a need for an immediate panic or for disreputing a brand to that level or disreputing eggs to that level for that matter. But it is about understanding that if technology has advanced to give us these readings, give us these reports at a very, very low limit of quantification, why should we not be up there in terms of international standards? Having said that, this is not to, of course, doubt FSSAI and its, of course, efforts. It's not easy in a country like India with everything going on and the number of things that they have to do to keep it in place. But it's good there's a chatter about this. It's good that brands are kept on their toes. It's good that FSSAI is also informed that there are people going about and doing independent testing, and this can can result in actually even creating fear, creating panic, as well as affecting public health.
Absolutely, sir. I'd request you to stay on with us as I introduce what actually the brand has given. In fact, they have published reports that have been released by Eggoz, and they have stated what their clarification really is regarding this entire incident. As you can see on your screens right now, viewers, these are some of the test reports that Eggoz has in fact published, and they have given 3 test reports over here. This is white eggs, December 25. First report, white eggs, December 25, report number 2, and they have also given the test reports for brown eggs, December 25. So, they are putting it in black and white. They are stating that as per these reports, there is nothing wrong with their eggs. They are within the levels that has been prescribed by the FSSAI, and these are the levels over here that you can look even for the heavy metals like chromium, nickel, lead. So, all of that has been mentioned by the brand. It's out in black and white. They have stated that this is within the acceptable limits for all of them. These are the reports for the white eggs as well, and they have given their stance that we are doing it very transparently and everything has been tested and is good to consume. So, when I come back to you, in fact, Dr. All right. Also joining us on the broadcast is Padma Shri Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman, Nephron Clinic, Dr. P.K. Julka, Vice Chairman, Oncology Department, Max Healthcare, Hitesh Arora, Chief Operating Officer, Consumer Voice of India. Let me go across to Dr. Sanjeev Bagai first. Sir, when we are looking at something like eggs, in India, we have grown up, looking at ads where, they were encouraging Indians to eat eggs every day, in fact, every Sunday as well. And now when something like this actually goes viral on social media, on platforms that people are consuming a lot, it creates a sense of panic. Obviously, we spoke to the person who has been part of, putting across this message to the people that yes, you can, consume these eggs, but in limited quantity because there is presence of carcinogenic, substances, sir. So, how do we look at, eggs going forward? Do we, believe the company which has given the clarifications, or do we believe these independent reports that are coming out?
Good evening. I think it's important to be cautious but not to create a panic wave at all. I think eggs are safe. The vast majority of non-vegetarians in India consume eggs. I dare say a large number of vegetarians actually also consume eggs, even in large quantities. Most of the athletes take eggs. Most of the performing athletes who are in the competitive line consume more than a dozen eggs a day. What is important to understand is that the microenvironment in which the eggs are produced and then, let me say, packed, then transported, and then finally down into the consumer contains a host of, let's say, items which penetrate through the shell. So we know that bacteria have been in eggs for a glow time, that means for decades. We've seen of E. coli outbreaks, we've seen of salmonella outbreaks, which causes typhoid, we've heard of pseudomonas. These are all very, very impactful gram-negative bacteria. Of course, salmonella causes typhoid. We also know that there are certain ingredients of antibiotics which are used in animal husbandry, in farming, pesticides, which then break down and then they enter into the ecosystem and finally into the egg. And one amongst them is nitrofuran and its metabolite Eggoz and nitroimidazole. Yes, they're genotoxic, cytotoxic. We've also heard of yeast and fungi and mold entering into eggs. What is important here is we know there has been no talk or mention for years together of micro nanoplastics, which is a far greater danger, far imminent danger, far long-standing danger than anything else mentioned above by me. There is no mention of heavy metals. So what I'm trying to mention is that there are ingredients which enter into the egg primarily because it's a porous shell which can get contaminated. Point number 2, India is a host of diverse cultures in which it's almost impossible for FSSAI to track. When FSSAI cannot track open vendors and street foods, which actually have more than
Dr.
95%.
Bagai, I'll come back to you. In fact, let me also rope in Dr. Julka, who's on the broadcast with with us. Dr. Julka, when you look at this issue, how significant are these trace amounts of substances like the nitrofuran metabolites that are present currently in those eggs and in food? Can they realistically pose a health risk at extremely low levels?
Yes, actually, I have heard Dr. Manan and Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, and both of them have said the apt thing. We should match with the international standards. There should be no compromise on international standards. But I would like to add that, we should match how we can match international standards, because we can get independent assessment by NABL accredited lab. So we have certain labs which are NABL accredited, and we can get the information from them, and they can do independent inquiry into all this, because carcinogenic substances should not be there. Because I've been dealing with cancer medicine, like seeing cancer patients since
All right.
1970s.
Okay. So I'll take that point, sir. In fact, and I'll go across to Hitesh Arora, who's also joining us. Mr. Arora, do you also believe that there should be independent testing apart from, the FSSAI testing that is currently going on? Because this was done independently and then these results came in. So as a consumer, what should we be looking at?
Yeah, first of all, good evening, Shivani, and good evening, fellow panelists. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to be present on WION Network. Yes, I believe as a consumer voice, I believe that we should separate the facts from fear. The customers need to be informed and not alarmed. And I firmly believe that this is in the purview of state governments, and they should basically interact with the regulatory bodies like FSSAI, which is Food Security, Safety and Standard Authority of India. And yes, testing is the need of the hour, and the esteemed panelist did mention about the testing, and you yourself have shared the testing result from the company. And the company should be given a fair chance wherein the tested results, which just the esteemed panelist mentioned, which is NABL accredited testing labs are there. The testing can be done via them.
All right.
And those testing can be shared with the company, and a fair
All
chance
right.
should be given to them so that they can clarify their point, because at the end of the day, it's not about eggs.
All right, absolutely, sir. It's not about eggs, but it's actually about the consumers who are in fact looking at this entire issue, and it's become viral online. So that's why we will be looking at some of these issues. But Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, your closing comments on this entire issue, sir.
This is almost impossible to track. That's a reality. Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, it's a secondary story. There are more than millions of eggs which are consumed in India on a daily basis. Yes, there should be random checks. There should be some amount of quality control. There has to be testing, but you will find an occasional aberration, but that does not make a rule. If you start tracking every egg, it's an egg and hen story. You'll never finish. Over to you.
Absolutely. And Dr. Julka?
What I meant to say was that with diet, we should not compromise on anything. Eggs are, taken every day by all the non-vegetarians and even vegetarians, which are called eggetarians. So basically, safety standards should be maintained when we are taking, because we are asking patients to take more eggs per day so that they can have more proteins. And there are protein supplements also, because they have, we call it cachexia, means weakness. Otherwise, taking chemotherapy, immunotherapy, radiotherapy, all these, so that we have to tell them to take adequate diet. So diet should be perfect.
All right, thank you so much. I thank all my panelists for joining us on this discussion. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but that's a wrap from us on this bulletin.